What I'd like to do now is go to Pete Vargas. Pete, are you there? I can't hear Pete. Can you say again?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Hey, I can hear you. How you doing, Pete?
Good, man. Hopefully I was customer 001 on that, man. That is a crazy offer.
Right.
And I hope I was number one. So I want your team to tell me if I was number one or not.
All right. Well, Pete is an expert. Pete came into our next level mastermind for top level earners. He did an unbelievable job teaching them the importance of storytelling, the importance of being able to do it effectively instead of being all the kind of network marketing-y. And he also did a workshop for some of those people in Milwaukee with his partner, Pat, that they just raved about. So since this is the biggest, most asked question right now, how do you tell your story and how do you be effective today without being pushy and salesy and awkward? Pete, I'll let you take it from here. Go ahead and hit it.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to be here. You can hear me just fine, right?
Yep.
Cool. Awesome. Hey, everybody. Pete Vargas here. I'm so excited to be here with all of you guys, tens of thousands of people from across the world. And my goal right now for all of you is to help you understand how to communicate. How you communicate today looks different than even how you communicated 3 weeks ago. And I want to give you that framework today, whether you're on social, whether you're on a podcast, whether you're on a phone call, whether you're on your team meetings. I want to give you a framework today that I believe is going to help you serve and help a lot of people who need your help today. And I want to start by saying thank you. Thank you to Eric and Marina for having me here today. I don't take it lightly, but thank you to the industry. I know you don't know me, but when I was 19 years old, 19 years old, I had to figure out how to pay for my college education. I was broke. I was walking around campus. I just had a really bad crisis happen in my life. And I had made it on college campus, but I didn't know how I was going to continue to sustain college campus. And I'm grateful because network marketing, multi-level marketing got me through college. It's the reason I got through college. I wouldn't have gotten through college without it. I believe it's one of the greatest industries that exists because it gives the average human being on this planet the opportunity to start a business without hundreds of thousands of dollars. But like Tony said in his interview there, for a few $100s. And so what I want to do today is I want to help you understand, and this is my give back to the industry, I want to help you understand how to communicate. What I'm about to teach you, it's the same thing that we showed Dean Graziosi and Tony Robbins as we helped them build out their speaking team. It's the same thing that we shared with Grant Cardone and his team that made them license this content that I'm about to share with you. It's the same thing that we've shared with so many of the people that we work with, some of the biggest thought leaders on planet Earth, including Damon John, who was taking notes ferociously as we sat there and helped him understand how to communicate more powerfully. Those are all folks that we work with. And I'm excited to bring this to the tens of thousands of people today because I believe today, right now, is probably the greatest opportunity in the history of network marketing and multi-level marketing to be able to serve and help a lot of people. But you cannot do it the way that it's been done. Because I'm a part of the industry, I still continue to get recruited on occasion. And the conversation and the communication typically lives in one bucket. And there are 3 ways that you cannot communicate today. If you communicate in any of these 3 ways that I'm about to show you, it will actually do more damage than it does good. And so I want to help you understand how not to communicate with these 3 C's, but ultimately communicate with this C. And so what I want you to know is I shared this story with Eric and Marina, and what I shared with them is one of the things that we were able to do is Grant Cardone, we sat in Grant's office just like we got the chance to sit at Eric and Marina's house, and Grant's like, this content is amazing. Like, we wanna license this. And so they licensed all of our digital resources and they licensed the workshop. And we were at the very first workshop, and I want you to see this because this is one of the deadly C's. I was at this workshop and there were about 30 people in the room, and me and the gentleman that Eric just talked about, Pat Quinn, said, all right, everybody go around and in 1 minute, introduce yourself. You got 1 minute. And so everybody started going. And while people are going, I'm seeing how powerful of a communicator they are. Because I'm going to give every one of you in the framework where in 3 minutes, you will have people asking you questions and wanting to know more about you and having you want to go deeper with them here in just a minute. But what happened in that day is people are going around, everybody's going around, and then one young lady gets up, and this is what she says. She said, what if I could show you an opportunity of how you could make more money and lose weight? And a lot of you right now are chuckling across the world because you're like, yeah, immediate red flag, immediate wall, immediate defense went up in that room. I didn't know it went up, but I felt it in myself. And I hadn't stopped anybody along any line thus far. I hadn't stopped anybody. And I stopped her. And I felt like I wanted to coach her. And I didn't want to embarrass her. And I said, I can't remember her name, but I said, young lady, are you in a network marketing company? Are you in a multi-level marketing company? And she said, yeah. How did you know? How did I not know? That is the way that the majority of people try to recruit me and recruit the world, and immediately a wall goes up, defense goes up, and red flags go up. And we began to reshape it and said, listen, I'm not, and then by the way, I told her that, I said a red flag went up and a wall went up and the defense went up right away. 29 other extremely successful business owners in that room, all of a sudden, and I didn't know they were going to do this, raised their hand and said, yeah, me too. A wall went up for me too. I was like, no, that's not what I wanted to do. That's not what I meant to do. My heart was to help coach her. So I said, guys, I want you to see the power of this framework that we're about to coach her in. And so I worked with her. Pat Quinn worked with her. I know you don't know Pat Quinn, but he's a part of our team. And a couple of hours later, we did like a 90-minute masterclass with her and the people in the room. And then she came in front of stage later because everybody had to present their 2 to 3 minute talk. I think it was a 3-minute talk. And she started like this. She said, from the age of 5 years old until 12 years old, all I could remember was being bullied and abused for being a chunky little kid. And all my life, I tried to figure out all the things I could do to change that because it hurt bad. It really hurt. I remember when Billy did this to me when I was in second grade. I remember this story in 6th grade. I remember this story in 9th grade. And nothing worked. I was trying everything. And then she went on to continue to tell the story. And you could hear a pin drop in the room. And you felt goosebumps just like I have right now on my arm. You see, there are 3 deadly C's that I believe in the midst of what's going on in this C, meaning this crisis, that if you fall into these 3 C's, you might get some short-term wins, but it ain't going to be long-term success for you in the way that you communicate. So the 3 ways that I do not want any of you to communicate today, number 1 is what we corrected her on. And what was that? What was she doing? I call it the cheesy communication of network marketing. Eric knows this, Marina knows this. We're on a mission to stamp these 3 C's out, but especially the cheesy communication of network marketing. We are on a mission to stamp that out. So right now, it is not a time to be cheesy or be cheeseball or talk like that. And I think a lot of people who are part of this community, you've learned from Eric and Marina, so you understand that, but I want to reinforce that. It is not a time to start being cheesy in your communication. And by the way, good economy or bad economy, I want that to get rid of. I want that to get rid of. So First C that we got to get rid of is that. The second C, and these all came to me. Right now, in this time and age, you feel like you can cut to the chase. That's the second C, cut to the chase. My neighbor lost their job. I've seen tons of people firing or having to lay off people, not fire, but lay off people. And all of a sudden they feel like now is the opportunity. I just got to cut to the chase because I want to help them. And you cut to the chase and a wall goes up immediately again. This imaginary wall that you can't see, she couldn't see, but everybody else in the room felt. And so it's not a time to just cut to the chase. We'll get there, but we can't cut to the chase. That's the second C in this economy that you might be tempted to do. Hey, laid off? Let's talk. No. Laid off? That's why you should have been working at home. No. Laid off? Don't have a job? We can help. Like, let's be really cautious there. Let's be cautious there because that's the second C that maybe gets a little bit of short term, but it ain't going to have long term. And the third C, and this one is super important right now for you to understand. You cannot try to lead with the C, which is cash. Once again, you might be tempted to lead with, hey, cash, 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 cash. No. Do not lead with that C. So cheesy, I want no market. Cutting to the chase and cash might work in other markets, but it ain't going to work today. And you're going to turn more people off than you turn them on to what you're doing. And right now, you all have the power in your hand to literally shift what's happening in our world today. You have the power in your hand to help people rise up in the midst of chaos and crisis and fear if you communicate well, if you communicate powerfully. And so what is the C, Pete? Okay, I'm not going to be cheesy. I got to figure this out. I'm not just going to cut to the chase. I'm not going to lead with cash, meaning leading with the financial opportunity. What do you need to do, Pete? Well, let me first give you a little bit of a context of the story, because if you get this story, which was another crisis time just in our nation, which was America, but I know we have people from all across the world, you will understand the C in a very powerful way that you have to use in your communication. You see, what you don't know about me is I had a terrible, terrible relationship with my dad. Awful. Abusive dad growing up to me. My grandmother took me away from him when I was in 6th grade because of the things he was doing to me physically, mentally, emotionally, every which way. My grandmother took me away from him and said, you're never going back to live with your dad. Now you fast forward several years and I'm a youth pastor. I'm 23 years old. I'm bringing in these powerful speakers into my youth group. And one of those speakers that I decided to bring in, his daughter was the first girl killed at Columbine. Any of you remember that, 1999 Columbine? His daughter was the first girl killed at Columbine. And she died, and the month before she was killed, she wrote a paper called My Ethics, My Codes of Life. And she had 6 diaries. And in this paper and this ethics that she wrote for her 5th period English class, she said, I have this theory that if one person will go out of their way to show compassion, that it'll start a chain reaction of the same. People will never know how far a little kindness will go. Yeah, you might have caught into the C that I'm going to talk about here for a little bit, but what I want you to know about her is she stood for that in her paper, and her 6 diaries were her life's journey of how she lined up and she actually lived that message out. And so this man comes into my community, he speaks. I'm 23 years old. My dad hasn't said anything to me really about what he had done to me in the last 10 years. He's in this building. He's actually present. He's live. He's watching. I'm thinking maybe this will move my dad to take action and apologize. And at the end of the presentation, after that man, and this is very, very important, everybody, after that man said, hey, parents in the room, You have no idea how long your kids are going to be here, or you're going to be on this earth with your kids. I want you to go tell your kids tonight how much you love them. And some of you need to go ask them for forgiveness for something that you've done to them. And literally that night, my dad went and wrote me a letter. He said, I'm sorry for the father I've been. Here, my son is having an impact on hundreds of kids' lives, and I can't have an impact on my only son's life. I'm asking you for a second chance to do things right. And he told me he loved me for the first time in over a decade. My wife and I were weeping and we were crying as we read this letter. He took the man up on his challenge and actually went out and did something about it, took action, because the man led with compassion. And he shared his daughter's story of compassion. And now, for the first time in my dad's life, after lots of people trying to recruit him to make things right with me, finally, the very first time somebody led with compassion, my dad heard it and he took action. If you want people to take action right now, you have to lead with compassion. You have to lead in this market with empathy. You cannot be driven by the cheesiness or the cut to the chase or the cash. You got to lead with compassion. That is what you got to do right now. And I want to share one more story about him. In 1999, our nation was scared. I don't know if Eric and Marina remember this, but we had a nation that was really scared because we had our first major school shooting. And I'm not comparing it to today, but I'm comparing what I'm about to say to today. Back then, everybody was talking and complaining and scared to death. Parents weren't sending their kids to school, and they were afraid. And everybody was pointing the finger and taking blame and blaming everybody else, and there's all this finger pointing. And this man chose not to finger point. He chose to make a decision to forgive the two boys who took his daughter's life. And he went and took this message out to compassion out into the world, which we helped him do. And literally, you fast forward several years and they became the biggest school program in schools across the world, taking this idea of compassion out to the world. Right now, the way that you've got to lead in recruiting more people into your business, because listen, they need in your business. Like, I hope that these next 6 months are the biggest 6 months in the history of this industry. Now, I also hope that the world shifts and changes, but I believe all of the seeds that you plant in the course of the next 6 or 9 months for the rest of this year, leading with compassion, will set you up to be so successful. So successful. Right now, you've got a pace with them before you lead them into your company. What is pace? You got to pace with empathy and compassion right now, because people want to hear that you understand how they're feeling. They want to understand and know that you know what it's like right now to walk in their shoes. And so I want to give you a couple of practical things that you can do before I wind this down and bring Eric back here in just a second. I want to give you a couple of things that you can do. And so we have this proprietary process called the Story Braid Framework. And I'm only going to talk about one piece of the framework, which is the heart. I'm not going to talk about the rest of the framework. I'm just going to talk about the opening heart. Like right now, if you can lock and center in on the hearts of humans and lead with compassion, be the one who communicates with compassion, and you win that heart, they will be in your business. They will be a distributor. They will be a customer, more likely a distributor in today's market, really. But you got to understand how to communicate. And so it starts by winning their heart. Let me give you a few practical things of how you communicate with compassion to lead and win over their heart. The first thing you have to do right now in this market is communicate in a way that helps people understand that you know what they're going through. Not about your business opportunity, not about your product. Like, man, The world is hurting. They're losing jobs. They're losing their finances. Like, you've got to make sure they understand that they can find themselves in you. Like, that you can connect with their heart immediately. Like, connect with their heart immediately by making sure you're actually real and transparent and compassionate and communicating in a way that helps them understand that you know what they're feeling. People don't care how much you know. They want to know that you care. Maya Angelou has an incredible quote that I love around that. They'll forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And if you feel cheesy, if you feel cutting to the chase, and if you feel cash driven, they will pick up on that, and the wall and red flag will go up in their subconscious. You want to break that wall down? I'm giving you the power, and I'm trusting that you guys will do this in an authentic and sincere way. Is you've got to first connect with their heart by them understanding that you know what it's like to be walking in their shoes. Whether you're putting out content on social, you're recruiting people to come to some of your conference calls, like the messaging has to be that. The second thing you want to do with this heart, the second thing you want to do is, now their guards are down a little bit because you've connected with them. People now are more open to having conversation, and they don't want to see that you're this extraordinary person driving this amazing car, living in this incredible house, debt-free, set for life, semi-retired. That's not the conversation that's going to happen now. They want to know that you're ordinary and that you've walked in their shoes before. And you've got to know what their shoes are right now. Listen to the market right now of where it's at. I'm asking people, how do you feel right now? Like, what is your biggest concerns? I'm asking our community that, and they're telling me. And as they tell you and you listen, those are the words that you've got to hear, because you've got to make sure that you relate that you are ordinary and that you've walked in their shoes before, that you've faced crisis before, that you've went through it before. And then, and only then, do they want to know that you're extraordinary and that you've gone somewhere that they want to go, but it was from some place of crisis or difficult times or hardship. Doesn't have to be a financial crisis. It could be a relational crisis. It could be a health crisis. It could be something that shifted it and turned it around. Once they know that you are ordinary, they then want to know that you've done something extraordinary, because that's ultimately where they want to be. But they don't want to be there until they know that you know what it's like to walk in their shoes today. Man, I hope you guys grasp that. I really hope that you get that, because that is an incredible piece. And so the second thing that you want to do in this opening heart is the ordinary and extraordinary. Make sure people understand that you've been walked through that, but you've gone somewhere that they want to go, because now that's going to open up the conversation with them beginning to ask you questions. And the third and final thing that you want to do just in this opening heart, I'm not even talking about the head, the hands, the heart. I just wanted to bring you one nugget around the opening heart. One nugget around the opening heart. The last thing that you want to do in these times is do a little digging and ask yourself, what is my why right now? What is my why? What is my why? Like, what is my why? And here's the criticalness to this. You want other people to find themselves in your why. And so my why is that I want to help our community get on 1 million stages by 2027. To share their messages and their stories with the world. And now I've even shifted a little bit to say, I want to help our community get on 1 million stages by 2027. And the number one stages that they're going to get on is our virtual and digital stages, because there is an abundance of them that they can do straight from their own home. And here's what happens is, if you can have an empathetic and compassionate why that you can have in conversations with people, they will find themselves in your why. If they find themselves in your why, they start asking the question, how do I work with you? How can you help me? What can we do? I need help. I want to be that extraordinary. They're not going to use the word extraordinary, but I want to move from that ordinary position you were in to go into the extraordinary. And I want to be one of those people in your why. That's the third thing that you want to do in this opening heart. When you begin to do those three things, the game shifts. The game shifts. People feel connected to. They feel out of isolation. They don't feel depressed. They don't feel anxious. They feel connected. They feel heard. They feel loved. And they've now come in and said, tell me more. I want to close with this story before I bring Eric back up. I told you that network marketing got me through college after a really hard hardship. But what I didn't tell you is that I played collegiate tennis, and my grandmother went and worked another job just to help get me through college because my parents didn't have the money to help me with college. My grandmother went and worked another job. I got a small little college scholarship. I got a little bit of a Pell Grant, and that's how I got through college. And I was playing collegiate tennis. And one day I'm going out to my car to go and drive to tennis practice. All my rackets are in there. My car's in the parking lot of my college campus, Midwestern State University in Wichita Falls, Texas. And I go and I find and look for my car, and I can't find my car. Well, what I come to find out is that my car had been repossessed. And it was the gift that my dad had given to me, but my dad wasn't able to afford the payments, and he didn't tell me that. My rackets were gone. My car was gone. I was in tears. I didn't know how I was going to make it now. Like, I had no transportation, no tennis rackets. I was already struggling to be on that college. I decided to go last minute because I had some friends really, really encourage me to do that. And then I ran into a lady in my church. And a lady in my church didn't get cheesy with me. A lady in my church didn't shortcut things or try to take a shortcut. A lady in my church didn't cut to the chase or lead with money. A lady in my church was compassionate, and she heard me. She actually gave me some money to be able to get food. And she supported me just helped me. Her and her family, her family became like an extension of my family. And they loved me. They didn't play the short game. And then one day she just told me about this incredible thing that she was a part of. And it was a no-brainer for me to ask her, tell me more about that. Because as Les Brown would say, I was hungry. And that was the very first network marketing company that I ever got in. And I can remember it. I can remember the second one and the third one. And I can remember what network marketing did to get me through college because of someone not being cheesy, someone not cutting to the chase, someone not talking about all of the cash stuff that I could get, but someone leading with compassion. You lead with compassion, industry. You lead with compassion. All of you walk around the world as you communicate that heart and you communicate to their heart. What you will begin to see is you will begin to see more distributors, more customers, more volume, more impact, and you will be responsible, a little piece of helping restore the world's economy that's hurting right now. But it's industries like this that are going to change that. So Eric, that's what I would say to everybody today, my man. I think it's an absolute no-brainer what they put out there, what you put out to the folks today. I'm not even in the industry, but I'm going to go learn some skills and some skill sets from you. And man, I appreciate you having me in front of everybody today.
Well, it's my great pleasure. Thanks for bringing value.